What keeps me up through the nighttime, keeps me dreaming through the day, is that the goddess of wisdom is only a block away. I wanna fly with the Jetsons, I wanna shoot past the stars, I wanna take you to a place you've never been before, when nothing rhymes like purple and orange, where you can count the coldest law. I wanna fly with the Jetsons, I wanna shoot past the stars. What's done is done. Oh, we'll live and die by the number 21, where energy is flowing through machines that are all-knowing, and the lightning outshines the sun. I wanna fly with the Jetsons, wanna shoot past the stars, wanna take you to a place you've never been before, when nothing rhymes like purple and orange, and you can count the coldest law. I wanna fly with the Jetsons.
Hello, Mr. Dominic.
All right.
Hello, hi. There we go. That was The Jetsons by Joe Martin Music. That's kind of fun. I like that.
Meet the Jetsons.
The Jetsons. I love The Jetsons. How you doing over there? You good?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? You fired up?
Fired up.
Okay, well, then you know what that means. It means
Let's do it.
It's time to do
get her
this.
done.
Chat room. Oh, have I started the titles? Hold up. I may have failed in my duties.
Huh.
I think I should have started the titles already, and I did not. Show start, coder. Although Magnolia Mayhem may be the only one in there. For goodness sake. We throw them one curveball and they bail on us, you know?
I know. This is my fault. That's okay.
Is it? The least they could do is tuck and roll, you know? I kid. But we would love to have you in there. Coder.show/matrix. You can help us bang, suggest as we go along. Commercial streams. Wait, that's not the right one. That's the right one. Commercial streams are up. Hello, commercial streams. Nice to have you on. But what you got over there?
I was looking for a cloth that I can't find. That's okay.
I won't ask why you want a cloth when we're trying to podcast, but...
Because I just noticed
no,
that there are smudges on my monitor here, and I'm OCD, but I can tolerate it for the length of the podcast.
You might be able to pull your input down by like 2 notches of a lamb's tail. You seem a little crunchy to me. You seem like 2 hairs of crunchy to me.
How's that?
I think that's good. That's good.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll bring you up a little bit here, and I think we're set. Okay. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Drew. Mr. Dominic, please jump in at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
We did it. We did it. Chat room, it's up to you. Please bang, suggest, or maybe it's just up to Magnolia Mayhem. I'm not really sure. Good Lord. Here we go. In 3, 2. This is Coda Radio, episode 552 for January 9th, 2024. Hey friends, and welcome into Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the whole world of technology. My name is Chris, and our host, over there ready to go, it's Mr. Dominic. Hey Mike.
We are back. Hello, sir, 2024.
Jar Jar. It's in the contract. We do it after the show now. Jeez. How you doing? You all right? You good over there? You seem a little tired.
I'm a little tired, but that's okay.
I can tell already. I know you well enough. I can boom.
Yep. You know, it's I'm an old man, Chris. What can I say?
If we were doing the show in person, I'd be like, before the show, I'd be like coming up ways to like hype you up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, you know, I have a cup of Earl Grey hot here because I had to. Of course, I'm sure over our break, you know that I was just sitting here in a rage, remembering my complete failure to defend the honor of Babylon 5 against.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
good.
But first, I'm honestly not even exaggerating, joking at all. Not a bit. I'm taking my top layer off because I am so fired up about this. And I think I'm getting too warm. I think I got to just get on a soapbox. I know, and I shouldn't do this at the top of the show. It's ridiculous. But look, I brought this box. Yeah. Okay. There is a wild blind spot happening today as we record, which is Tuesday, January 9th, in the tech community. Maybe one of the biggest blind spots in the tech community in the history of the internet and beyond. I'm talking like from The Verge all the way down to individual people listening to this show. You're all blowing it. Maybe you got distracted by monkey JPEGs. I don't know, but I was just talking to the live stream. We may be, as this episode publishes, it may have already happened, the first ever free software project. Not a company that makes money using free software, but an actual free software project is about to get traded on the U.S. stock market, which is the largest market in the world. Open source software is about to be approved as an ETF, and it's going to be backed by the biggest banks in the world. It's a big deal.
Hey, David, yeah, that is the question. A Bitcoin ETF, it's now widely expected to get the green light this week. Two sources close to the process now telling me it's looking like Wednesday, which is also the deadline for Cathie Wood's ARK and 21 shares bid. Then I'm told potential trading would happen Thursday or Friday, but it has been a moving target here on dates. The SEC is expected to approve a handful of applications at once. Those sponsors filing even more paperwork this morning, where we are starting to get a sense of this price war emerging. There are 13 applications out there with different fees.
13.
Some are starting at 0 and then rising once the fund hits a certain size. So BlackRock, for example, plans to start at 0.2% and then go to 0.3%. Fidelity at 0.39%. Grayscale looking like the highest here, 1.5%. This one's worth watching, guys. It's looking to convert an already publicly traded Bitcoin trust, GBTC, into an ETF, so known as an uplist. With $27 billion roughly under management, GBTC would become one of the largest commodity-based ETFs if it is
$27 billion is one of the ETFs. 12 different banks, BlackRock, Fidelity, they're all potentially, as this episode posts, getting their Bitcoin ETF approved. It's not a Ethereum ETF. It's not a crypto ETF. It's not a Solana ETF. It's not a Cardano ETF. It's not a Dogecoin ETF. It's a Bitcoin ETF, and nobody's talking about it. It's a free software project that's about to be traded on the stock market. Now, I know it's money, and it's the stock market, and that's gross, but it is historic, nonetheless. And it's also exactly what I said would happen, just as a side note, exactly what I predicted. This summer would wash out much of the crap crypto. And after the summer was over, the big banks would come in and they would legitimize Bitcoin. Well, look what's exactly happened, my friends. Not to take a victory lap, but even if it gets delayed, it's still going to happen inevitably because the SEC has been told they have to do it by the court.
So what do we think that means ultimately now that it's on the market, the public market?
Well, so, if it's an ETF, that means it's kind of just built into all of the platforms that let you buy stocks and sell stocks and buy things like ETFs. And, the gold ETF is a very common way for people to actually buy a position in gold. There is some of the banks that are involved are specifically banks that will hedge for different retirement fund options as well. So once it's an ETF, maybe a retirement fund that you say is, I'm long-term high risk tolerance. Well, maybe they allocate 5% of that retirement fund to Bitcoin now. So it's essentially, it legitimizes it for the big, large financial institutions. And then since it's backed and promoted by Larry Fink and BlackRock and the biggest banks in the world, I mean, literally the world, you can't really argue, because if you're a financial institution or advisor that says, well, Bitcoin is a scam, well, then you're saying that Larry Fink and BlackRock and Fidelity and JP Morgan don't know what they're doing. So it's a massive validation in the financial world.
Right. And I feel like it becomes, if you're one of those big players, another, just another one of many. Wait, is it trading as a commodity? It's got to be trading
Well,
as a
kind of.
commodity.
It's it's probably the most analogous to a gold ETF. So
Okay.
when you can buy fractions, you could go buy like $5-10 of it, and underneath that, like BlackRock and Fidelity and others are buying a corresponding amount of Bitcoin to match that. And then
Okay,
when
so
you
it's
cash
just-
out, you get cash, not Bitcoin.
Yeah. So in most cases, I think it's just going to become another place where, a lot of the big funds can diversify, and it's another place to diversify.
Well, and it's
right?
fantastic for boomers, and I don't mean that
Yeah.
to be ageist. I mean legitimately, because for my folks, 13 years ago when Bitcoin was $100, and I told them, "Hey, you should buy some of this." What am I? I'm gonna go get a. What am I gonna get a Mt. Gox account or a Coinbase account 10 years later? Like, what am I gonna get a Coinbase account? That's silly. It was just sort of a silly toy thing to them. But if Dad's gonna log into his Fidelity account already, and he's got some Apple and Tesla stock in there. Well, now also on that same screen is the Bitcoin ETF, and it's going to perform very well because of this. Recession aside, you have these ETFs opening up. That's going to bring money in. You've got the halvening cycle in sometime in the spring, probably April, where this happens every 4 years, but half the amount of Bitcoin get issued. So the scarcity goes up. And then in December, the Accounting Practices Board is changing the accounting practices around Bitcoin so that it's more, attractive to corporations to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And that's all happening in 2024. So I think it's a big year, and I think it really makes it stand out from all the other crap. When we started this discussion, about Web3. Well, where's all that stuff at right now? It's barely hanging on. But, I just think it's remarkable because all that aside, we've never had this historic to have a free software project now be traded on the stock market. Not the company, right? Not like Red Hat, but the actual open source project now. The current is recognized as a currency and is being packaged up and bought and sold by the largest banks in the world, and nobody says a thing about it. And it's interesting the blind spots that we can have as a tech community, but specifically the free software community, because this is a massive milestone for the free software community.
That's true.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your JPEGs of monkeys, how's that going?
Yeah, right? Like, I feel like everybody got distracted by the monkey JPEGs, and they missed the signal. Well, almost everybody.
Good old signal to noise.
Speaking of signal, looks like Apple might be getting a signal now when you spill something on your Mac.
I have to stop talking smack about Apple because now they're just building in features to screw me.
They're listening to their show, and they're listening to the show, and they're like, "Oh, so that's what we need to do."
They're like, So they're going to be able to know if you've spilt liquids into the USB-C port, suggesting that it will actually phone home and tell them that you spilled in the USB-C port.
Yeah, I guess they're looking at someone. 9 to 5 Mac, I guess, is looking at code in Sonoma 14.1 Mac OS. There's a new system daemon in there named Liquid Detection D. Yeah, you can probably guess what that does.
Yeah, I guess I know what it does. D indeed, a bunch of D's over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's yet another little thing where Apple's like, just a reminder, this device is our device. I can't say that my reasons for not liking this are at all pure, but it is true that, right, in many cases you can spill liquid on a machine, throw it in rice or whatever, and be okay, or at least, not obviously damaged. The problem is, now I'm assuming the intention of this is, let's say you in January spill liquid on your MacBook, they'll be like, okay, and then in March you have a problem that maybe the liquid damage wouldn't have been so obvious in March. Well, they'll run the serial number and just know that it's been damaged by liquid. So,
yep. I mean,
presumably denying your warranty or forcing you to pay the higher price on the Apple Care for the accidental damage.
The source code suggests that, it's actually you could even report it back as part of just the analytics collection that reports back to Apple. Now, Not that they would, but that means Apple would technically have the capability of associating that information with your iCloud ID. And then when you open a schedule and book an appointment with the Genius Bar, or whatever they call it now, I mean, it would be a simple matter to just expose that bit of analytical information
To the
your
Genius
account.
Bar guy.
And then you show up, they've got a little note that says, before you've even opened your mouth, they've got a little note that says, the right port has a liquid detection sensor gone off. And you're sitting there giving them a whole spiel about your grand theory on why the port's not working. And they know why. They're just listening to your little story the whole time.
Well, and the end result is they just charge you more, right? Because they have multiple tiers where Apple Care will cover you.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, I would. And if it's obvious liquid damage, they charge you, like, depending on the model, it can be quite expensive. But it's, like, cheap enough that buying a new one isn't worth it. Part of this, and why these prices have gone up, other than Apple's just love of thick, juicy margins, is as more components get soldered together, it's kind of impossible in most cases to just replace a, insert broken port here.
Indeed.
So you're usually almost always replacing don't call it a motherboard, the logic board, which in the case of MacBooks is effectively the entire machine. So
Sometimes it's attached to like the bottom of the keyboard or something, depending on your generation.
well, usually it's like it's usually pretty. It sucks ass. I mean, but I understand that we can make fun of my spilling liquids all day long, which we should. But from Apple's perspective, we're going into this, as we've been talking about for months now, this kind of year of efficiency and trimming and things. People are looking for margin. This is a good way to get margin, right? Because if you know that someone spilled something on their laptop, you got them. It's the terms of the warranty. You're screwed.
You
right?
got them. Like there's nothing they can do, and now you've got the data.
Yeah.
Which is, you can kind of guess the way these conversations come up. Like this is a big enough problem that they're going to spend the time and money to A, develop this analytic system, and B, install these stupid sensors.
Well, the other thing too is like the folks at the Genius Bar tend to be like nice, personable people. And if you have liquid damage, but it's like maybe not the proximate cause of your problem, I'm pretty sure that on more than one occasion, this happens pretty frequently. They kind of look the other way, right, and say, "Oh, I guess it's defective."
I wouldn't know. Again, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I know. Now that's not going to be possible, right? Because there'll be a supervisor that says, "Hold on, buddy, that serial number had the liquid, 3 liquid sensors triggered." So there's also, I believe how this will be used is it takes a little discretion out of the frontline genius.
That seems like probably, not again, that's not going to change people's lives, but that's probably the practical
It's going to just make mine more expensive. Although when I do the job, I do it. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Hold on. We have breaking news, Mr. Dominic, coming in right now. Holy smokes, we have details on the Apple Vision Pro. It is going open. It'll be available for pre-orders on January 19th, and it's going for open sale on February 2nd. Not exactly clear on how that's going to work. You can probably expect a very limited quantity online, so that way they get your butt in the store and get pictures of lines out the door. The headsets and lenses will be adjusted for each customer.
Ugh.
Remember, it is $3,499 before accessories.
And taxes.
Yes. Also, along with this, Apple has released Vision OS guidelines for marketing, and they're asking developers and others to not refer to it as VR, XR, any of that kind of stuff, AR. They want, quote, spatial computing. Do you think this is going to destroy Tim Cook?
No. I think it's going to be a blip on the radar.
Really? A $3,500 computer on the precipice of a...
Yeah, it's not going to sell a lot, right? It's...
their stock's getting super punished. It's been downgraded again. Wall Street is punishing them because they, quote, don't have an AI play, end quote. And so if they release this $3,500 stinker when the consumer is suffering and there's no, quote, AI play, I think the market and the narrative just runs. It just writes itself.
I guess, but like, look at where they're starting from. It's, what is the negative outcome here?
What I just said.
okay, so a stock dip. I mean,
Stock
I guess
dip and just a general credibility loss, and then inevitably, I think this prediction, although I'm not actually underwriting it, but this prediction is that it gets looked back historically as this was the beginning of the end for Tim Cook. That Tim Cook just can't innovate. He can't connect with what the Apple consumer actually needs anymore. And it's time for Tim to go. And look, it all begins in a series of failed products. And imagine also if the Wall Street predictions about services revenue to go down, iPhone sales to be low, and for the next iPhone to be low. I mean, it could be a snowball effect.
Okay, but I mean, I just don't see it.
You're not biting?
I'm not biting. I feel like
Are you
Tim
gonna
Cook
get
is
one?
already.
Are you going to get one?
Oh hell no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Well, are you gonna get one?
If I don't know. Dave Jones just boosted with 5100 50 sats. He says the Apple Vision Pro is perhaps the worst timing of a product launch ever. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think if they launched this 2 years ago, it's a different conversation.
Well, I've noticed they've done these sessions, and Marco and a bunch of the other more super Apple focused folks are definitely they can't say anything, but wink, wink, nudge, nudge. They're very excited. It has all the problems of an expensive device, i.e. like a HoloLens, although I will concede that this is probably far better than the HoloLens. And then it adds the problems of being an Apple device, because I tend to think about these things as from an opportunity perspective as, okay, do we want to go back to the world of consumer stuff, which $3,500 a pop, I just think that's a non-starter on its face. But enterprise, it could be, right? I mean, this was the dream of the HoloLens. It would be, for those who don't know, HoloLens was Microsoft's, basically this, right? AR, VR. I think it's interesting that Apple doesn't want those terms used, probably because they're trying to redefine what the thing's supposed to be to have less comparisons to other devices in the future.
I'll give them credit. I bet they have a better experience. That's why they don't want to be
I bet they have a
associated.
very limited better experience.
Yeah. Well, that's it. You nailed it. Okay.
Yeah.
So my bullish version, so now I'll steel man this. My bullish version for the Vision Pro is that it truly is what replaces the Mac. If you look at the Apple product lineup, you got the iPhone, you got the iPad, and then you got the Mac. And it's not the type of product Apple really makes anymore, even though they're doing an SoC and it's essentially an iPhone in a case that's just really been built up. No judgment. It seems to be a good product. But ultimately, you could see something like the Vision Pro getting more and more Mac-like hardware. Remember when they introduced it? It's got an M-series CPU in it. So I think Apple's hoping that if they build this thing out right, and I believe they have invested years in making this thing tick. Responsive, good cameras, the UI's been thought through. I read through the developer docs. Looks like they've thought about a lot of stuff. You can tell when Apple is kind of half-hearted around a product. HomePod. Apple TV. And when they're all in on a product, right? You can really tell when they're all in on a product. This is one they're all in on. And they've been all in on it for years. And if they could solve these problems that you're talking about, i.e. if I could actually use the hardware the way I want to connect devices and I want to copy files off of an external device and move things around in a file manager. I want to be able to install my own applications. I want to be able to do all of that stuff. And then I could actually see this truly replacing the Mac one day, because look at guys like me. I'm the future, buddy. Look at me real good right now. I'm a trendsetter, and I'm living in a tiny home. I got a family of 5 living in a tiny home, and that's the future, because real estate is not getting cheaper. Yeah, maybe it has ups and downs, but we're all living in pods and trucks and vans and tiny homes. And even people that live in big homes that I have conversations with, they're like, God, it sounds so nice. So much less to worry about, less to take care of, a lot simpler. I hear that all. That's the future. But what you don't get in that hashtag lifestyle is a big 42-inch monitor for your killer PC setup, right? You don't get a 85-inch television. I just had to replace my TV. The biggest I could get was 43 inches. So, like, I'm stuck. I have no choice. I have to fit it in a space. Like 43 inches, max size. So, great. But you make this thing around $1,000, you start marketing to people like me, and all of a sudden I can have a multi-monitor setup again. I could do video editing and audio editing in a space that has multiple windows and pristine audio and a distraction-free environment that I can have in my tiny home where my family of 5 is moving around. Fantastic. You sold me. But the only way you're going to get there is if I can use it as an actual technology device that I own. I got to feel like I own it, like I own my computer. I don't trust my phone. I don't trust my tablets because I don't own them. And if something goes wrong, I can't just like boot up another OS on my phone and mount the partition and go recover data. And I realize and recognize 99.5% of the customer base doesn't want to do that. But I do. And I spend my money. And until they can address these kinds of things that I can do with a real computer, I don't think it's a viable device, unfortunately. And it's going to get friend-zoned just like the iPad has.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I'm thinking too, is that the use cases for this are very similar to the iPad. And, the other Apple rumor that we're talking about is OLED iPad 2 is coming out this year. I got to tell you, I would rather invest, a third of the money in an OLED iPad 2, actually less than a third of the money in an OLED iPad 2 to watch videos than a Vision Pro. Because I really do think this is going to be stuck in consumption zone.
Yep. The consumption friend zone where a device is never really justified in its expense. So you can pick one up maybe every 5 years or so.
Right.
We'll see.
Well, and the primary problem with this, other than price, but from an enterprise perspective, it has nothing to do with the device. It's Apple's policies. One of the things, even like today, if a potential customer for a long time now comes to me with they want an app, and it's an internal line of business app, unless there's a compelling reason, I do everything I can to keep them from having to actually go through Apple or do any kind of code signing. It's just a pain in the ass. It isn't worth
Amen.
it. A lot of IT departments don't know how to do it, and they get pissy because they, for good reason, right? Like an outside vendor now controls this important aspect of their business, which means good luck firing us. Yeah, so PWAs, which I think we're going to talk about in a few minutes, I really have been pushing that, though there's certainly some issues, which ironically are mostly intentionally caused by Apple. So I don't know. I mean, if this was like the Wild West and there was like some special, even if it was something you had to do to the Vision Pro, or hell, an iPad, really, I mean, this is my dream, right? Turn it on until, I don't know, promiscuous mode or whatever, Wild West mode, where it can literally run any unsigned code whatsoever, void the warranty. We know what we're doing. We're drinking the demon blood, but we need to, run our business. We don't care. That would be very different, right? That would be great. But the hassle of dealing with, because this does appear that it's going to have a very similar, you got to collect those UUIDs. You got to sign everybody up. You got to make sure they give you the right UUID, blah, 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 blah. As all the other iOS devices, it's just not worth the hassle. Especially the other, I guess, last concern I have is $3,500 for a device that I will bet my hat is extremely fragile. So, yeah.
Hey, we have a special going for the members out there, including existing members. Use the promo code JARJAR. It'll take $2 off for the lifetime of your membership. Applies to new members. Existing members, we'll do as a thank you. If you're reactivating an expired sub, there's just one gotcha. Only 50 redemptions total. Promo code JARJAR. Coda Radio is currently ad-free, so boosts and memberships are very much appreciated. Thank you, everybody.
Get the hell out of here.
I will! What a week. We were watching, basically running out of popcorn as DHH and the folks behind Hey and the Hey calendar went to war with Apple. How about I'll run us down the timeline just so we have it, and then we'll chew on this. So round one, January 2nd, 6:38 a.m., DHH tweets that we have a great native dedicated app ready for Hey calendar. The Android one is sitting there waiting for us to publish. But guess what's happening to the other one on iOS? It's still in review since mid-December. And then in this first thread, he starts flexing the Digital Markets Act, saying it can't go into effect soon enough. Round 2 comes January 3rd. He says, oh, Apple, not this shit again. I thought we sorted this out 2.5 years ago in round 1. He goes on, January 5th, round 3, saying they're letting us know why they're rejecting the Hey Calendar app from the App Store. The same bullying tactics as last time. Push delicate rejections to a call with the first-time, name-only person who will then softly inform you it's your wallet or your kneecaps. On January 5th, we got a blog post about Apple rejecting the Hey Calendar. Then on Jan 5th, also later in the day, in the same hour, The Verge happens to post an antitrust-related piece about Apple saying, quote, Apple might be the next big tech company facing antitrust charges. That has some deets about the Department of Justice finalizing antitrust investigations into Apple that targets its closed ecosystem. This was confirmed by the New York Times as well. Then later, on January 5th, an hour after The Verge posted that, your buddy Tim Sweeney jumps in from, Fortnite fame, and he replies to an App Store marketing tweet, burning them, saying Fortnite is not in your App Store because you are blocking it from 1 billion users. And then
Tim Sweeney never misses an opportunity.
Later on January 5th, later in the evening, East Coast time, The Verge is back writing up the Hey story for DHH and gets a quote in there that it's, quote, bullying tactics. Then on January 6th at 9 a.m., DHH posts a blog that says, happiness is never having to ask for permission. And he talks about what we've lost. He says the free market. This is where I think we're going to get to in a moment. And he thinks it's time for PWAs. And then we got the resubmission. And then today, this morning at 7:37 a.m., Apple approved the Hey Calendar. He says it's ridiculous that it needed this awareness and pressure, but I'm happy for our iOS team to see their work through the weekend pay off in full. So I guess they must have made changes to make Apple happy.
Yeah, they added a little history of Apple section that you can view without logging in. I'm serious. I'm not joking at all.
It sounds like trying to appease the king. Like, wow.
Well, no, it was trolling. It was he wrote a blog post about it. He was trolling.
Okay.
But it technically complied. And
yeah.
You remember and I don't know if it's still there, but in the original Apple developer guidelines, they had a section at the very end that was like, don't run to the press if you don't agree with us. It never helps. That statement, I think, is provably false. If you are big enough and can get enough and get The Verge, for instance, to write about you, it's one of the only things that does work.
It seems to be the only thing that works. Well, not just that. I believe you have to also have the constant threat and pressure of antitrust. And essentially, if anybody makes enough noise and they get enough awareness, they probably become a witness in the DOJ's case.
Right. Is it really the DOJ they're worried about, or is it, our friends in Brussels?
Well, both.
Yeah.
Both. I mean, it's both. They're under a lot of pressure, and so they have to navigate that really carefully. And DHH was able to leverage that.
This was a super weird case. Well, first, I should, full disclosure, the level of just pure hedonic pleasure I got out of this was frankly disgusting. I mean, it was one of the more enjoyable few days I've had in a long time. And I don't know why, and I think I need to do some soul searching, because just watching, honestly, Tim Sweeney and DHH might be the Batman and Robin of indie developers now. Because and indie, they're not, maybe Basecamp kind of, but certainly not Epic Games, right? It was just surreal how quickly they jumped on this and how unrelenting they were. I honestly believe Sweeney in particular has a dartboard in his bathroom while he's taking a poop with Tim Cook's face on it, and he's just lobbing shuriken at it. I really do. Level of he's always there. He must have a Google alert set up. Maybe it's called just App Store nonsense, and he gets the ping and he's like, let's go.
First of all, DHH has managed to really strike the perfect amount of constant rage generation on Twitter to really keep this a pressure cooker situation. And then he clearly knows people at The Verge, because even before they specifically wrote a story about him, they were writing stories around this that helped his situation. So that's a big tool in the old tool bag right there. Along with, Sweeney coming in for the sick burns as backup. They essentially had a multi-day, we'll put all links in the show notes, a multi-day sustained campaign against App Store review, and they won.
Yeah, they won as much as you can win, right? They did something, but I got to be honest, I don't think that would work for any like real indie developer.
No.
So yeah, okay, I'll put something for free in the app. It's a cheeky go F yourself about your company's history, which is very backhanded, reminding you that you guys used to be, the
I
plucky
get
upstart.
it. That is good. Okay,
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's
What do you think though about now? Okay, when I saw his post about seeing the light around PWAs, I got angry. Part of me feels like, why didn't you do this sooner? Why, you could have been helping prevent this App Store problem.
well, he has been though. So
come on.
Nah,
He's just now coming to the PWA light. Like all of a sudden,
he's not, though,
PWAs are
right.
the solution.
He's not. He remember, he's the Rails guy. He's the guy who
I know,
runs
but
Rails.
look what they actually do though, as far as their own apps.
It uses some web components too, allegedly. So this is where we get it. The PWA discussion's a little hard because, and we'll take it in the context of Rails. Rails has been trying for a long time to make this better. And the reality of the situation is that PWAs are fantastic on every platform but iOS. And that is not because of a defect in either, the HTML, JavaScript standards, or in the case of Rails, like turbo links, and they're moving to some hyper something in Rails 8. I can't remember, but we're going to do a show on Rails 8 anyway. It's just because Apple does a bunch of dicks and like intentionally nerfs mobile Safari. So, it is a provable fact that if you are a consumer app and you're going for like the fanciest whiz-bang GUI and you want to be super slick and whatever, you probably do need to go native. I would argue that's almost never worth it in the enterprise context. But this is not like something that, is a the Hey, it's not like the Hey calendar app is crappily coded or anything, or that Hanselman didn't know. It's that Apple goes out of their way to either overtly disallow things or barely implement stuff, right? Where they drag their little hooves such that we could take the Chrome implementation in Android as an example. Apple's usually 6 months to a year behind. And when it comes to performance, let me quote New Jersey, forget about it. It's terrible. So, and it's intentional, right? Like, and you could see their perspective, because if Apple were to like make mobile Safari not suck, the first thing that, let's be honest, Tim Sweeney does is launch an Epic gameplay player on iOS Safari. First thing Microsoft does is launch xCloud on iOS Safari, and that sweet 30% revenue is put into jeopardy. My point is, there's no technical reason that PWAs should be less good than native apps on iOS, other than the intentional strategy tax. Rant over.
Yeah, no, you're right. There is a user experience difference still. Man, I hope we make this transition sooner than later.
Only Valerie in the EU can help us.
She's on it,
She's on everything. She's got a plan for everything.
I'm over a year now. Last November I switched. So the year before, so not this November, but the November before, I switched to Graphene OS because I was freaking out about Apple's App Store control too much, and I wanted to just kind of keep a leg in there. The whole rest of the family's still on iOS, but I think it could be trending towards me getting the wife on a Pixel instead of an iPhone for her next phone. I think it's just maybe time, and I can manage it for her.
Yeah, I can't. I'm too far. I mean, I'm shooting up between my toes the iLife at this point. I can't stop.
I understand.
The withdrawals would be horrible.
It is nice to see this come to a resolution that the Hey calendar gets in there. We'll have the timeline.
Yeah, I think it's funny that this was all about what's I mean, congrats to the Hey team, but in the grand scheme of the App Store, a relatively small calendar app.
Right. Well, and his argument is that it was something that they had already settled on their last app, Hey, and now they're just breaking this out using sort of the same onboarding process. He's like, this is a settled matter. Why are we bringing it up again?
I mean, I think he knew it was going to get rejected because if you look at the clause he cites, they added email apps because of the fight with Hey before.
Yeah,
they didn't say anything about calendar apps.
Yeah, I agree. That was true.
Yeah.
He was leaning on that definition of email apps pretty hard.
pretty cute. Maybe too clever by half there. Also, the challenge for Apple, and we've seen this right in their leaked emails from with the lawsuit, the Epic lawsuit, not leaked but released emails, is that they are aware that they don't enforce the rules 100% accurately, right? And sometimes that's intentional. Sometimes, like, they make sweetheart deals with Amazon, which they did. Other times it's, people are people and people screw up. So I wonder if the easiest thing for Apple might be, and I guess they could never do this because Wall Street would kick them firmly in the gonads, but just to say, all right, you can let people sign up outside our app. Any transactions that happen in the app or any signs up in the app have to be paid through us. But if they sign up whatever in Chrome or on the browser, we'll laissez-faire. We're fine. I can see why they don't want to do that, because the minute you do that, I mean, Tim Sweeney probably blacks out from just sheer excitement. So, but once he wakes up, they're going to do, well, no, not Tim Sweeney, because Apple kicked all his crap out of the App Store. But, everybody else in a similar position is just going to rip out their sign up in the app functionality. And would certainly, especially the game developers, there would certainly be an appreciable loss in terms of that sweet services revenue off the 30%. And looking at the sales projections for iPhones that we just mentioned in the top segment and iPads, that 30% is their bread and butter right now. So I don't see how they could do that. They're kind of screwed by having been so hardcore years ago.
Yep, I agree. If you'd like to boost into the show, we sure appreciate it. It's a great way to support the show. And Fountain 1.0 just came out, and it is a banger release. It also has really slick integration with Strike, one of my favorite ways to grab a little bit of Bitcoin at a time, and they work in 36 countries. Some nice features. You get all the new Podcasting 2.0 feature sets, which means you get a new episode within about 90 seconds or so of us posting. If we go live, we've had people boosting live, you get notifications about that. A fantastic set of discovery tools, especially in Fountain, and a bunch of other things like transcripts and chapters, depending on the podcast, and a whole ecosystem of new shows over there. Go check out Fountain, find Coda Radio, and start boosting in. Each boost supports the show directly, each episode directly, and a bit of it goes to editor Drew, myself, the network, the Podverse Dev FMs. Of course, the revenue the show makes, a little kickback goes to Mr. Dominic as well. And we'll get to those boosts later in the show. They're a big part of the show as well. So it's a nice way to interact and support each individual production directly using a free peer-to-peer network. So go try it out. Fountain, Podverse, there's a whole bunch at podcastapps.com. Well, people probably heard about this New York Times lawsuit against Microsoft and OpenAI for copyright infringement. But we wanted to weigh in because I think our bar now for talking about this AI stuff is generally if there's going to be some kind of overall impact, some kind of knock-on effect we'll be dealing with. And I think this probably reaches that bar. The New York Times is asserting that there has been nothing transformative about what OpenAI and Microsoft are reproducing. And their legal filing is seeking billions in damages. And they've also tried to come up with some big fat contract, and those negotiations fell apart already. So we're past all that stuff. And now we're in the legal fights. It seems kind of like they got him too. Now they did work the prompts to get this, but in the filing, and you've probably seen the screenshots, they've got almost a word for word. Here's the New York Times article piece. Here's what Chad produced. With all this stuff, yeah, it takes a little finagling to get that, but it makes the point in just a picture. You can see that they're copying the New York Times without even having to read the article. And essentially, the New York Times says, look, training your stuff and making all this money off of OpenAI means that you added $1 trillion to your market cap, Microsoft. And OpenAI rose to a $90 billion valuation because they had this technology, in part, which was trained on New York Times data. And so they're suing. And I think this will set a pretty big precedence. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the most predictable things.
Yes, that too.
It makes sense that it would be the New York Times because, hey, bro, we're the New York Times. They need to pay them. I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, you can't.
Oh, I think they're going to have to, right?
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to why. What I would love, I'd love to know why the negotiations failed.
Because I could see money because they wanted too much money.
Well, but it is okay. I have a crazy theory that maybe, how should these publishers be compensated? Should it be like a flat license every year? Or should it be like per usage, which creates all kinds of weird incentives for how you might want to train the LLM?
And the question is do we trust the ChatGPT methodology for sourcing? How do we know? Because you know how this works. It's not like it's all coming from one place. So they would have to weight the sourcing and then do attribution, and their system would be making the attribution. I would think the way this would work out from an end user standpoint is the ChatGPT engineers would start building content filters for different partners. And so if something had, a high enough assignment score of being sourced from the New York Times, it'll only be exposed to folks that are, that have added the New York Times plugin, which has a price, to their ChatGPT package.
So you literally do the OAuth, yeah.
Yeah, you authorize. You link your ChatGPT account to your New York Times account, and then you get a little token, and now the stuff that's sourced from the New York Times gets exposed in your chat.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. I mean,
there's
some sort of rev deal.
Would you pay for it?
No.
Right, I wouldn't either. I don't think the content's worth it. I don't think the content is worth it from the New York Times.
It's not how I use ChatGPT either.
Well, there's that.
I could just read the Times if I want to.
Well, there's that. That's exactly right. And the reason why I'm making this point, though, is this is how you silo the world's knowledge, is through these types of deals. And by not allowing people to index it. Now, so say Jupiter Broadcasting wants to build our own real-time tech news large language model that we could just use for our own show production internally. And maybe we wanted to make it available as an open source model. Well, we wouldn't be able to use New York Times data. We could never afford to license it. It's going to be millions of dollars. No open source model will. And this sets the new standard. All over totally crappy, not worth it New York Times content. It's not even good stuff. It's not archive.org, right? It's not some sort of very valuable medical database. It's the New York Times, which is for people who aren't even going to use ChatGPT. So I'm really I'm kind of bummed out to see this happen because we knew this would be the end result. And of course, Microsoft and OpenAI and Apple and others will happily afford to pay this. And I've been reliably informed that Apple is in negotiations with New York Times and others to offer them money to just license it directly before there's been some sort of standard pricing model. And I've had it implied to me by someone who might know that one of the reasons the deal between the New York Times and Microsoft fell apart is because Apple's paying a lot more money than Microsoft was willing to. I don't know. Can't say for sure, but I don't like the way this goes.
Yeah, the problem is OpenAI already did it, right? I wonder if, you went back in a time machine and asked them, is this even worth it? Maybe don't scrape the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I guess for historical data, if you have the back catalog and you're going through it, that might be worth it for generating, cheating term papers for college kids.
I feel like there should be an expiration. Short term, 5 years. Okay, yeah, everything has to be licensed. But at some point, when do we want to make things available to human knowledge?
Okay,
seriously, people 20, 30 years from now.
Yeah, okay, Mickey Mouse, right? Steamboat Willie, one very specific version just became public domain after how long?
Yeah, I know. And that just seems like we're just going to, but now we're going to essentially entrench and commoditize and marketize and all of that process. For anything anybody produces, The Verge, the New York Times, not iconic, massive, obvious like trademarks and copyright properties, but everything, every crap article, every crap review, everything the Wirecutter puts out, so now you can't source any of that to include it in part of the training. It's just silly because that's not how actual training works. And it's like the same idea of adding noise to data so that way AI can't use it to generate images or music. You add some sort of bogus data.
Yeah.
You poison something today. It just seems so short-sighted because these things last forever.
You know, it's the system we live in, and I don't think all these issues are going to be financial settlements. Copyright law is not going to change anytime soon. Certainly not in favor of the ChatGPTs of the world. I mean, there's just a lot of entrenched power and money and political influence in the IP holding firms. So, yeah, they're going to have to get paid, right? Like, I don't know what to say. You got to pay them. Now, how much they should be paid? Well, the problem is OpenAI already did this. So New York Times can actually sue for damages. If it was something they were thinking of doing and the Times folks were unreasonable, you could throw your hands up and walk away from the table. And you're out. You know, you have no liability.
Yeah.
But because
OpenAI behaved like a startup and not like a $90 billion company that has a target on their back.
Like, I don't have a ton of sympathy for them because, you know, fuck them, right? Like, they're a $90 billion company. And I know you don't care for the Times, but I do. It does annoy me that many of like the old tech publications, particularly the dead paper ones, the magazines that I used to enjoy, are dead because they couldn't generate any revenue. And one, given the copyright laws as they stand, the New York Times is just correct on its face. And two, I would like to see content creators make more money because, well, you know, we're content creators, right? And also, I don't know. It would be great if like more computer hobbyist magazines were made, or at least some old ones could come back, even if they came back as like digital, you know, like blogs or whatever. I'd like that, right? I'd like to be able to get tech news from places that are, you know, not necessarily the fancy San Francisco, Washington, D.C., New York people who have access, and then write books about how much they hate everybody who made their career. Coming out in February. You can't wait to read it. Or, you know, some dude's blog who I don't know if he's sitting in his basement frying some alligator conspiracy bacon and just making shit up, right? Because that's kind of the binary choice you have right now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think it's probably worse on the. I think the term for it is access media,
access journalism, right?
Yeah,
that's what it is.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it on ultimate display with the Apple Vision Pro. Right, these people that get it for free, they're gonna talk about how great it is. Oh, it's cutting edge. It's early days. You know, it's still not quite there yet, but on whole, it's going to be 85% gushing because they didn't have to spend $3,500 to get it.
Well, even if they did, right? It's, you know, I mean, we should move off of this, but there is a certain kind of understandable natural corruption that can happen when you literally need to be able to get access to the people and get the device in your hands. If you can't, then you're, you know. Put it this way, there used to be many more tech blogs like The Verge, and I'm not saying The Verge is necessarily guilty of this, but it certainly helps that they can get the Apple interviews, they get the devices. I mean, they do pay for, I think, almost all of them, but it's maybe this is part of us being old, Chris, but I feel like there was a lot more variety of voices that had a substantial enough following to be reputable in the past, particularly like print content, than there is now.
There used to be a lot more cranks. There used to be a lot more. There was people that either bought the device themselves or they built their reputation around having like a strong moral fiber and not having the review devices sway their opinion, and so that was their whole angle. But this is the problem with the access journalism / media is the ones that spoke really positively and had a large following and got everybody excited are obviously going to be the ones that get rewarded because these companies are going to be strategic. They have limited amounts of review devices. They want a specific narrative right around the launch. They're not going to pick, the John C. Dvorak out there who's going to call the new phone crap. They're not.
Yep.
They're just not going to do that.
Right. And there used to be, I mean, we should move on, but there was also like a diversity in like, political affiliations, lifestyle, where these people lived. I'm finding that regionality is maybe a thing that needs to come back a little bit in the States here. Because like people are different. It's a big country, right? Like it's a really big country.
Ask not what your podcast can boost for you.
So boost.
But what you can boost for your podcast.
Exactly. Keep independent media weird, right? Like Tampa Tech Trekkie is with 171 sats.
I missed that. Oh.
Using Podverse. Regarding Mike using his MacBook Pro with 98 gigabytes of RAM.
96.
Okay. Couldn't he use Windows on ARM for his Windows dev work, or is there some reason it has to be x86? I've been running Windows on ARM, and granted I don't have any Microsoft dev software on it, but it seems to do everything great.
So Visual Studio for Windows on ARM just came out. I haven't tried it yet. There is no boot camp in the newer versions of Mac. So that would be running it in a VM. That, given the heavy compile loads that I was having problems with, I don't know how viable that would be.
I've had pretty good experience with Linux ARM VMs. It feels pretty native, but I don't know about Windows.
The very specific set of problems I have on this project is I'm pretty sure the libraries are not compatible with Windows on ARM themselves, right? So they're like, x64 and then like iOS versions of them. So I do not believe that would work. Having said that, I didn't try. In theory, right, Windows on ARM is coming out, like they have WinForms support and they're coming out with more stuff.
Yeah.
If for some sick reason you're doing MAUI, you can do that. But I don't, this is one of those topics that comes up that if you listen to the back catalog in 6 months, I think this is a non-issue. Tampa Techie's probably right, or Trekkie's probably right. It's just at the time I had to make the decision, and still now it is not viable. But in 6 months, I probably, right? So,
Tampa Trekkie, let us know if you're going to do the Babylon 5 challenge. I'd be curious to know. Dave Jones is listening live and comes in hot with a boost. 25,000 sats from our live Jupiter Station feed, which is now published. He says, a live coder, be still my beating heart. Welcome on board, Dave. It's nice to have you here. Mick Lane comes in with 29,999 sats from the index, and he writes, what's better than an evening out my sats, there we go, by supporting Coder Radio? Well, maybe you hear you guys talking about Babylon 5.
yes.
I was a big fan of Babylon 5 when it came out in the 90s. It won me over Star Trek because the plot went forward, unlike the Next Generation episodes that I got used to at the time. Yes, the first season is a bit hit and miss, but compared to the Next Generation season 1 through, say, 4, it's really not that bad. And he says, speaking of sci-fi, where's my Battletech Mech Warrior fans out there? Hey. Okay, so I did it. I got through season 1 during the holiday break. I followed that Reddit guide, which I should try to link to again. That's on our Star Trek. That's like, should I watch Babylon 5? And the guy's like, if you just can't get through season 1, watch these 6 episodes. And then he's got an extended list. It's like 11 episodes. And then he's got like you could watch them all, but just skip these 2 episodes kind of list. And I went with his extended episodes list. So I watched about 11, 12 episodes of season 1, to really get the core things. And then I sit back to watch episode 2, I sit back to watch episode 1 of season 2, and it's like a whole new commander, a whole new Ivanova. Like, she's like totally new hair. She speaks completely different. She's much more friendly. Like, they tweak a lot during that season 1 to 2 transition.
So you want to know the reason for it?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
It was a secret at the time. The director kept his word to the original actor, but they, time, all secrets go away, right?
Yeah.
He had some serious psychological issues and had a breakdown between the seasons. So they had to hurry and recast, and they changed Ivanova to have a better dynamic with the new guy.
Yeah, because he's definitely got a different style.
Yeah, but they wrote him out. They actually I was watching a documentary on it because I'm that level nerd. And the writers had bad experiences with previous shows of actors like ditching them. So they wrote all these trapdoors. Like there were versions of scripts for every single bridge crew character to get killed and just written off the show in some way.
That's probably not a bad idea for negotiation
That's super
purposes.
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really wasn't, as far as like how do you handle a transition where you don't have the going away commander, like they handled it pretty well.
Well, spoiler, he comes back not as the commander, but he comes back as like a helper to the commander.
God, he was so stiff.
Yeah, I like the second guy. I like Sheridan better, actually.
Yeah. I like Ivanova better now too, as well. Noob Steve. So if you got out there, if you got past season 1, let us know. I'm only a few episodes.
You got to season 2 though.
Yeah, I'm only a couple of. I'm like 3 episodes into season 2.
Oh, do you like it? I mean,
I'm starting to. I couldn't really tell you. Like I've watched one of the main characters. She went through like a literal transformation. They've laid a couple of hints that I like tentacles and things like that I find fascinating. But so far, I'm not like really feeling like I've like my tire hasn't made grip with the road yet. But I'm willing. I'm only like 3 episodes into season 2, so I'm willing.
Because season 2, if you don't like it by then, the end of season 2, you're probably not going to like it.
So far, it's been a nice like I'm at work by myself, and I have like something that I want to watch while I'm waiting for something to finish. Like, like it's great for, I don't know. It's been nice for day watching.
Yeah. It doesn't require 100% CPU to process. That's for sure. So,
yeah. It's nice for that. Noob Steve comes in with 24,690 cents. He says, here's a new JB show proposal. Unfilter the sci-fi version. I love listening to Mike failing to defend Babylon 5, but he did just a good enough job to get me to start watching. He continues.
Seems like I didn't fail that much, guys.
He continues in another Spaceballs boost.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just a New Year's boost to say thanks.
Stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
Also, Kay from Men in Black said it best, quote, "A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky animals."
That's fair.
That is fair. Man Attack came in with 2,261 sats. He says, part of what made both Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 interesting was good characters who made the stories more personal. Strange Worlds seems to have perfected this. Also, did you know that In the Pale Moonlight is immediately followed by the first appearance of Space Tony Bennett? I didn't.
Of course, because once you do something so good, the next move is, all right, that's it.
I feel like
Fonz, get the shark.
I feel like what's actually kind of unfortunately happened, though, here is Tat has just kind of tainted In the Pale Moonlight. Those of you who don't know Deep Space Nine, fantastic episode. But now I know that it's associated with Space Tony Bennett, and I just don't like it at all.
You know what that does? I have to elevate Cisco in my captain rankings right next to my favorite captain, Lorca, because I forgot about some of the shadier crap that Cisco does.
Space Bennett was legitimately the guys running the show were just feeling a little burned out. They're kind of out of ideas. I'm not even exaggerating or kidding. They've said this in a documentary, and they had been wanting to have like a Rat Pack thing for a while, and they just hadn't gotten any other shows because they've only been working on Star Trek, and so they just wanted to do it, which is always a great reason to write something into an ongoing television series.
Can I offend our fellow Trekkies here?
Okay, all right, I'll prepare.
I think there should be a rule. 1 sentence. No holodeck.
I am programmed in multiple techniques.
Yeah, kill the holodeck. I think it's
Space
time.
robot sex is fine. No holodeck.
I think it's time.
It's time. The holodeck is like you know what? My fellow liberal arts degree friends from college are going to be mad when they hear this. I used to hang out with a lot of the theater, I'd say people, but let's be honest, chicks. And a lot of them, many of them were also into writing. And the worst things that they would write, right, the worst scenes that they would have to perform, or that would be when they say, "Oh, I just had so much fun writing this." If you feel yourself saying that, it's probably bad. Okay, I just want to put it out there.
It's a bad sign.
It's just like with us developers. If we're like, "This is such a great module I wrote," it's probably way over engineered, right? And just like Space Tony Bennett, guys. Now, the irony is a Rat Pack show, because I love the Rat Pack. When I was a kid, my room had pictures of the Sands Casino and Dean Martin and the Rat Pack. I'm not joking at all. I used to collect decks of playing cards from casinos. I would be down with that show. I would watch like an HBO Prestige miniseries on the Rat Pack.
Its own
all the
show.
time.
Its own show.
Yeah,
Right.
But not
Right.
in the holodeck.
This is some wisdom you're laying down. And if I could summarize it, what you're saying is be aware. It is very easy to get high on your own supply.
Absolutely.
And just fall in love with it. That's what you're saying. And I think that's very wise advice.
Like, I'm doing this kind of side game devy project, and I'm watching the younger folks, the kids and cousins and all that, play games. And I'm realizing that these kids play games completely differently than we did. It is more of an exploratory, just chilling experience, at least for this group of my son and his homies. And I'm like, they don't give it. Like, we have an Xbox Series X. What is he playing? Roblox. What does it look like? I think my toaster could run it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my kids, so I got 3 kids. One of my kids, he's gaming like he's in the Olympics combined with like some sort of pole vaulting combined with wrestling. I mean, they're screaming. You'd think he's in an esports like competition. Like, oh man, oh geez, did you see that? Oh, I'm coming in clutch. Oh, my ping's way up. Like screaming the entire time. And then the other one is completely silent, playing like a cat game where she's just running around as a cat in Roblox.
That's it.
Talking to other cats. Yeah.
It's like an acid trip almost. Like,
well, we got some ducks over here. Ian clearly came in with a row of ducks. He has some TV recommendations. Jury Duty from 2023 on Amazon Prime.
does look good.
Lighthearted, he says. And we would enjoy it. He says, Happy New Year as well. Okay. He says it's actually only related by the concept of jury duty. I don't know what he means by that, but I'm going to take the recommendation and I'll go sniff around. Jury duty seems like...
Oh, I thought it was like a 12 Angry Men thing.
No, it's got to be... It says it's lighthearted.
Oh, never mind.
And entertaining.
So no Jack Lemmon?
Yeah, probably not. Magnolia Mayhem, who's in the live chat, came in with Spaceballs Boost. Actually, probably our third one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. That's amazing. I've got the same combination on my luggage.
He says, no sponsor. No. Oh, I think that's why he boosted. Thank you, Mayhem. Dave Jones is also listening to the back catalog, the Workstation Lifestyle. And he says, my Cron Auto Boost was screwed up, so here's 5,000 sats. I'll get it working soon. Dave, your lighting channel's all busted? Oh, I feel you. Tom's dad came in with 10,000 sats using the index. He says, here's one for you about the layoffs. It's seemingly insidious. Oh, yes, I read this. He links us to a post about Amazon silent sacking. And about they're just basically making the conditions so that people quit. Also, there is a massive Amazon story going on right now where through a legal case with a former employee somehow, they seized all of his bank accounts and his wife's bank account and his mom and dad's bank account and I think some other family members' bank accounts and then put them through like this legal process for like 4 years. That's just absolutely devastating. Just because of some dispute, some really kind of basic thing. And it's a fascinating story if people are interested. Amazon is raising eyebrows. Torp came in with 11,101 sats. Look at that satchel of sticks right there. He is using Podverse, and he writes, what are both of your opinions on characterizing software development like shipbuilding? They're both large projects with many features built on top of very simple base and purpose. Just work. This comes after Mike had brought up the failed attempts to make dev work easily accountable a few weeks past, but I didn't write down the exact industry we were comparing to. What do you think of comparing development to shipbuilding?
I think it could be interesting.
Yeah, or some large... I don't know if shipbuilding's it. It feels like shipbuilding isn't quite it because it's just too well established. It's like forever. It seems like a newer, but also very intricate, you build from a base up industry would be more appropriate. I don't know, though. I like it, though. If anybody thinks of one, boost in. User65 came in with 5,000 sats using Fountain. I think he's brand new because he's his first boost ever.
Woohoo!
Been listening to all your amazing shows. Thank you. And don't forget, user, you can go into your Fountain app and set your profile name if you'd like. And thank you for taking the time to set up a first boost. I know that can be a bit of work. Southern Fried Sassafras comes in, Sassafras with 2,000 sats using the index. Try not to go plaid when engaging ludicrous speed, boys. Wait, neither Babylon 5 nor DS9. Well, just take my stats. No, but
it's a good one, though.
It is.
That's pretty good.
It is. Scott had a row of ducks for us. It's strange on many. It's so strange that many of my friends love the flags for stuff like COVID and climate change and think they should be applied to everything, yet are also firmly believe there's not enough democracy in the system and we need more of it. You can either trust the people or you don't. Maybe these tech companies and politicians are so far removed from the average person they don't realize the paradox.
I think they just don't trust them. I mean, it's pretty. The answer's in your
maybe
statement.
It could be disdain, the riffraff,
Or like aristocrats of
what do they matter?
Really.
Those people don't build anything.
Yeah, contempt for the regular people. Right.
What matters are corporations and enterprises that last hundreds of years. What do we care about those? So I think that's part of it. But then I think there is definitely the disconnect. The well-off are so disconnected. You see it with the discussion around inflation. Like, I was watching a YouTuber that I followed for years, and he went shopping. And while he's shopping, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to buy this dog bed, and I think I'll pick up this because I think the wife likes this, and I'll get this." And he's just kind of like shopping like I used to do 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 3 years ago, where you're kind of like you went for one thing, but I'll just get this and that. For me now, it's like I have to get the core 3 things I came for because I can't afford anything more. And that's just different discretionary amounts of funding. And so you feel the inflation differently. And so for some people, they're completely disconnected from what people are going through day to day, where they're still impacted by the cost of food. Other folks, they're living it. Other folks aren't. I think there is a disconnect there. So I think it's both. But I do appreciate the boost, Scott. Thank you. User 65 came with 5,000 sats. First boost ever. Wow, thank you. Another one. You also can go set your username. Appreciate that. Freeloader came in with 2,345 sats. Listening live. Hey there. Nicely done. He says, you guys can probably see what Apple's thinking. They're pricing the Vision as a decent spec MacBook Pro, but you pay premium for that general purpose tool. The Vision's just way too specific.
Yeah.
That's it, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah, that's fair.
I think Apple is trying to do that. I think that is exactly what Apple's trying to do. And then coming in just under the wire, look at that. Dave Jones comes in with 5,150 sats, and he says 2 words. Ponfar. I agree. Ponfar indeed, Dave Jones.
Oh, my.
Yes. So this totals off by 5,000, but we had 21 boosters. Thank you, everybody. And we stacked 342,394 sats. That's a much better improvement. Now, that does account for a couple of episodes. We'd love to see it right around there as we go sponsor free. We'd love to see the support continue. We'll continue to also stream live, which you can now catch in the Podcasting 2.0 apps by just searching for the Jupiter Station feed. I think it'll be pretty great. I love the support. We really appreciate everybody. And there's a whole list of apps at podcastapps.com. All right, so I'll put a link to the Should You Watch Babylon 5 in the show notes. If you're a crammer, you could really do it in like 4 episodes. And I'm just at season 2, and I'm probably going to be going a little bit slower now that the holiday break is over. But I would love to know what you think. If you're a Star Trek, or I suppose even a Star Wars fan, what you think if you give Babylon 5 a go. I've tried it. It's one of those shows that I've kind of just glanced off the atmosphere multiple times, but I'll tell you why. In part, it was your extremely compelling argument. But I glanced off of the atmosphere of The Expanse 3 times before I landed and just put up with the first few episodes that I didn't like. And The Expanse is one of my, I know, I saw Drew was trying to get you to watch it. The Expanse is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi shows, probably all-time favorite television shows. And then when you get hooked, the great part is there's like books that expand upon the universe, and the books are great. They're written by the same people. It's fantastic. So it's really, a lot of nerd potential. So I really have enjoyed the Expanse universe, and it took a few passes, and it was worth it. So I'm giving it a go with Babylon, and your compelling arguments, of course.
So compelling.
So compelling. Is there anywhere you want to send the good people before we get ads?
Go to alice.dev, and you can follow me on Weapon X.
All right.
At Dumaduko.
I will. Finally, after all these years, I just might do that. I'm over there too at Chris LAS. The show is at Coda Radio Show. And the network's at Jupiter Signal. I mean, yeah. You know what? I'll probably write you back if you write at me over there. Find out about live streams and stuff. I don't know. Get in the Matrix. Coder.show/Matrix. Also, get the show notes at coder.show/552. See how it all works? It's all over there. It's called a website. We got links and stuff. You'll figure it out. Like links to our RSS feed and all that. And, of course, you can always catch us live on Monday, generally, at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern over at jblive.tv or on that Jupiter station live stream feed. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Coder Radio program. See you right back here next week.
Sometimes I feel like I'm the Commodore 64.
Thank you, Drew. All right, let's title this thing. Let's title it.
I really want to talk
Friend
to
Zone.
you. And
Yeah.
perhaps
What?
do a
What about
song
you? Like the friend zone one?
I like the Friend Zone one. I think that's pretty good.
All right. I mean, I ain't gonna argue this with you.
Yeah.
I likes it. I'll end the titles, and the chat room can go vote. So if you're in coder.show/matrix, you can vote. I'll do that right now. Show end. Thank you, everybody, for making it. That is in there. I see we have Tiny in there now. Mayhem coming in clutch, as my kids would say as well. Did your kids say clutch?
No.
Oh, really? No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, you know, when they do something great, they're like on the gaming when they're playing on the online game. When they do something great for like their team, they're coming in clutch.
My kid's on a bro phase. I hear him. He's like, bro.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't let him like play online with people, really.
No, they do it with Minecraft even. This is just Minecraft. They're just playing on Minecraft. Oh, and it's all his buddies. It's just their buddies. They go home and then they play with each other on Minecraft.
Yeah, I'll let him do that. I just don't let him have a headset yet because I can't even imagine.
Oh,
He's been lobbying. The lobbying is happening.
Ooh, it's a lot of yelling.
Yeah, I'm like, the older one does, and it's terrible. It's like she plays, I think, Call of Duty and Overwatch, which I guess is a little more competitive. So I could kind of see but she's like ripping apart random 12-year-olds over Xbox Live.
That's
like,
amazing. I love that.
And that's worse because she's a girl. So you know, I'm like, you're just like making them cry.
iPad
she's
friend zone.
extremely good at shooters. So
Oh, really? That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, Dylan's a monster in the Minecraft. There's some sort of battle mode that they play.
Oh, I don't know.
Battle mode. Battle mode.
I'm back here with my old Sega games, just like whatever.
I know. As far as I'm concerned, nothing has beaten Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. I could pick that game up any day of the night, any day, any night, any time, and sit down and just start cranking it. And I'll still I still have levels that I'm a little bit like, oh, I still remember feeling nervous about this back when I was a kid, and it's a little tricky. Just love it. All right, so iPad Friend Zone seems like it's getting the bulk of the votes. You like it?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. All right, well, then we're going to do it, Mr. Dominic. Well,
bye, chat room.
Yeah, that's it. So when we come back, then it'll be the Friday of next week that the Vision Pro goes on sale. Probably, all likelihood, we'll have a Bitcoin ETF. We have no idea, but it's very likely. It could be wild. Okay.
It could be wild.
Have a great week.
Bye, chat room. Bye, these. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, everybody. Glad we got this. We're normally live on Mondays, but we had a little snafu, so we had to move it to Tuesdays, but it was nice to hang out with you. It kind of allowed for a couple of the stories to develop, and I think that worked out pretty good. And it gave me time to set up the lit stream to test that, and getting the live boost is a lot of fun. We're going to do the same test for LUP on Sunday. See if we can do a LUP live stream, and then my idea is I'm going to post a portion of the stream to the released feed. So in the regular episodes, you'll have a portion of the live stream, and then when we go live, you can get the entire stream. It's my current thinking. Maybe one day we do the entire live stream in there for playback, sort of like we do for JupyterTube, but in a podcast native context. All right, see you on Sunday. Thanks for hanging out.
fellas, are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooking. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.